Hello everyone, welcome to Curious About Kakuro. This is the very first episode we're doing in our tutorials explaining the very basics of solving these Kakuro puzzles. Today I want to concentrate, as we say, on the very basics, and as you can see on the left of the screen over here, what we want to concentrate in is what I call the low and the high pairs, the low and the high triples, converting triples into pairs and matching pairs. What that means is that you'll understand it as we'll go along, and I want to start at the very beginning. If you haven't looked at our introduction video yet, please have a look at it, because at least that shows you the structure of the puzzle and it goes through the rules of this puzzle as well. So we'll start at the very beginning, and as you can look on the screen here, this is what a Kakuro puzzle looks like. The idea, it looks very much like a crossword, but instead of using numbers, we use, instead of using letters, we use numbers to solve them. So instead of having these making words when they cross over, it has to add up to these numbers in the boxes at the side. So every row has got a number in the left-hand side, which means that the entire row has to add up to that number. And above every column there is a number, which means that every number in that column has to add up to that number. And there is only one possible way that it can happen. So the very basics, we're going to start off with pairs. Now, pairs are the easiest ones to work out, because once you've established what one of the numbers is, it's easy straight away to find out what the other number is, because there's only two numbers that then will add up to that target number once you've established one. Now, because if you've looked at the introductory video, you can't have the same number appearing more than once in any row or in any column. So you'll never ever find any Kakuro puzzles which will ask you to add two squares up, which will add up to 2. The reason being is because the only way that you can get 2 squares adding up to 2 is by having a 1 and a 1, and you can't have the same number twice. So the lowest possible number that you can get in any Kakuro puzzle is here, like we've got on the sort of center right, which is 2 numbers we're looking at, which will add up to 3. That's the simplest and the lowest number. When you click on that number in the box, it will show you what it can be. It can only be a 1 or a 2. So we can put that, I'll get rid of that, we can put that in that square. It's either a 1, right, either a 1 or a 2. This is either a 1 or a 2. There are no other options that it can be. Now, once you've established from any clue on any row or any column what the possibilities are in that square, there is no need ever to add any more numbers into that square. The reason being is that no matter what any of these other numbers are around it, once this puzzle is solved, in that square is either a 1 or a 2. So you never ever need to add to it. We can subtract from it, and once you've got one number and eliminated one number, that has to be the final number. And as you go on these, you can check by hitting this check button, and it will see if you've made any mistakes on the way. In the early games, I suggest that you check that, because there's nothing worse than actually making a mistake later on and then not knowing when you've made the mistake. So every time you do a couple of rows or columns, you can hit the check button just to make sure you're on the right track. Now then, what I also try and do to make things easier for myself is that once you've got numbers established in a pair, because there is only very few options on the other side. In other words, if we've already established this number, there is only one number that can go on the other side. We can put the possibilities on the other side of the square straight away. So let's have a look here. If this is a 2 and we need 2 numbers to add up to 11, it can only be if it's a 2 and 9. And if it's the 1, then it has to be a 10. So we know that the 1 cannot go there, because you can only use the digits from 1 to 9. So we've already established our first number. We know that that number there has to be a 9. So that number there has to be the 2. And because this number is 2 and you can't have the same numbers on the same row or column, and because the only number that adds to 2 to make 3 is 1, then we've made a start. We're already away and running. So let's carry on now and see if there are any other numbers that we can get to go to. Now, here at the top, we've got 4, which, as I say, can only be 1 and 3. Can't be 2 because you can't have the same number on the same row or column. So let's put those in. That can only be 1 or 3. This can only be 1 or 3, meaning that this one here can only be 2 or 4. This one being 4 can only be 1 or 3 as well. 11 is going to give us multiples. On this side can only be 1 and 3. This can only be 1 and 3. And on a tangent, that can only be 1 and 3 as well. Now with 3, this can't be the 3. It can only be, as we can see, 1 and 2. So we can eliminate that 3. Now we've established that that's 1. On the other side of it, the only number can be 2 to add up to 3. Because this is 1, we can eliminate this 1. So this has to be 3, and this one here has to be the 1. Okay, let's carry on. We've got another 4 here, which can only be 1 and 3. This can only be 1 and 3. Okay, let's write here 1 and 3, 1 and 3. Okay, now the next one here, we're looking for 17, which is the highest number. In this square, as we said, it can only be an 8 or a 9. There are no other options. So let's put those numbers in. It's either 8 or 9. This can only be 8 or 9. And going on a tangent, if it's the 9, then that has to be 5. If it's the 8, it has to be the 6. Okay, let's carry on. We've got a triple. 14, let's give it a triple. 16, again, we've now got the second highest number, which can only be 7 and 9. This can only be 7 and 9. Again, check the box just to check. Okay, we're now looking for 3, which we know can only be 1 and 2. This can only be 1 and 2. With a row of numbers needing 33. Here again, we need 1 and 2. And this is 1 and 2. Now, this is a good opportunity to bring in what we've noticed here in this column. And as we see over here, is that whenever you get a matching pair, as you can see, we've got 2 squares here that both have 1 and 2 in them. What that means is that when we think about it logically, is that if this was a 2, then this one has to be the 1. If this is the 1, then this one has to be the 2, because you can't have the same number on any row or column. But what it also means is that those numbers cancel each other out, and for the rest of the row, you can't have any more 2s or any more 1s. And we can also use those numbers. So we know that now that we've got 5 numbers that have got to add up to 15, if we subtract 3 from 15, we've got 12. We know that we are now looking for 3 numbers that add up to 12. So that is how you can shorten the runs down to lower numbers, because then all the same rules will apply. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's just carry on and see what these numbers we can put in, which are just concentrating on the low pairs and the high pairs. Here we've got 2 numbers that have got to add up to 17. So as we know, that can only be 8 or 9. This can only be 8 or 9. A run, another run, a run, a run. Okay, so we've basically done one pass through to the bottom, like reading from the top left, scanning down, reading like a book. What I do now is I go and work from the top and scan from the top to the bottom and work left to right, a little bit like reading an oscilloscope. So we'll see if there's any pairs we can work out here. There's nothing in this column, nothing here. Okay, here we've got 2 numbers that can only add up to 17, which is 8 or 9. This can only be 8 or 9. So let's work out a tangent this way now. Because these 2 numbers have to add up to 9, we know it can't be the 9. You can't have 9 and 0, so we can eliminate that. You can only have 8 and 1. And now we know that because we've got an established number and it's a pair, the other number has to be the number added to it. So the only number that can go with 1 to make up 9 is the 8. And it just so happens that you can't have the same number on the same row or column, so this one can't be 8, 8. Okay, let's carry on and see if we've got any other pairs we can solve out. Run. Here we go. Two numbers adding up to 4 we know is the second lowest pair, so that can only be a 1 or a 3. This can only be a 1 or a 3. If this is a 3, this has to be a 4. If it's a 1, it has to be a 6. Okay, so that's just putting options in there so we know what we want to find out what the numbers are, but we can also establish what they can't be. So when you know that the only numbers that can go in there are 4 and 6, you also know that there's no other numbers can go in there. Okay, let's scan on this next column. We're now looking for two numbers that will add up to 16. So as I say, we know it's an even number. It can't be 8. It can only be 7 and 9. It's a second top pair. So 7 and 9. This can only be 7 and 9. Okay, let's carry on down here. Oh, so let's take a tangent off of this. If this is a 9, this has to be a 2 to make 11. If it's a 7, then it has to be 4 to make 11. So let's carry on now. We've now established either a 9 or a 7 here. So to make 13, if it's the 9, this has to be the 4. If it's a 7, it has to be the 6. Okay, let's carry on. We're looking at a triple here. A 4, a 4. A 4 will give us a number. Okay, in the bottom corner here, we've got the last one, which is a 3, which can only be 1 and 2. This can only be 1 and 2. So on this side, if it's a 2, it has to be 7. If it's a 1, then it has to be 8. And because we've established n as a pair, we know that now that because this is 14, it cannot be 7. Okay, so we can eliminate that 7. It has to be 8 and 6. If you want to double check, you can just check it in there. As I say, it can only be 6 and 8 because we've established the numbers in there. If this is 8, this has to be 1. Because this is 1, now this has to be 2. Okay, so we've scanned once from top to bottom. We've scanned once from left to right. And it looks like we've got all the low and all the high pairs of numbers basically sorted out. What I want to move on to now is, as you can see across here, is what we call the low triples. Now, basically the same rules apply to the pairs as what apply to the triples. When you get anywhere where you need 3 numbers in a row, and it is, what you look at the lowest numbers we can have is 1, 2, and 3. When you add them together, they will make 6. So 6 is the lowest possible number that you can get where you need to get 3 numbers in a row, and it will always be 1, 2, or 3 in that order. Like we have up here on the left, we can see on here we're looking for a row of numbers that make 6. We know it can only be 1, 2, and 3. It shows you in there. There are no other options on that. So we've already got 1 and 2 established in there, so I know that this one has to be the 3. I can put it in. The next number when we go up from there is 7. So when we look here for the number 7, it shows you in there. The only numbers can be 1, 2, and 4. So I can put those numbers in. Right, let's put in 1, 2, and 4. In here goes 1, 2, and 4. And in here goes 1, 2, and 4. Now, because we've already got a 1 in this column, we know that this cannot be a 1. This is established already. We can eliminate this. You can only have the one number in there, no more than once. So that cannot be that. Now, we also mentioned before that because we've got a matching pair here, we can tell you now that for the rest of this line, you can't have a 1 or 2 for the rest of the line. The line. One of these, in whichever order, has to be the 1 and 2, so we can eliminate that 1 and 2. We know that that number there has to be a 4. So you can't have the same number in the same row. I know that that then cannot be the 4. That has to be the 2. So this side here cannot be the 2 or the 4. That has to be the 1. So we're left with the 1. Again, in this column now, you can't have the same number more than once. That 1 will cancel this one out. That has to be the 2. Because it's 2, this one has to be 1. Because this is 1, this has to be 2. because this is 2, this has to be 1. So you can see from just getting that one number, we've now managed to put quite a few numbers in there. That is the way that these puzzles work. They will eventually work themselves out. You may struggle to find one square, but once you've got that established number, it will open a Pandora's box for quite a few more. So we've established the low triples now with 1, 2, and 3 making 6, and 1, 2, and 4 making 7. On the high end of the scale, when you add the three highest numbers together, which is 7, 8, and 9, they will make up 24. Now I'm just looking on here and see if we can anywhere where they need to find a 24. I can't see one, but we may get to it. So they are the only options whenever you need three numbers adding up to 24. That's the only numbers that can go in there in any order: 7, 8, and 9. The next lowest number is 26, and the only combinations of that can be 6, 8, and 9 in any order. They can't be any other numbers in there. When we start getting into triples that are lower than 23 and that are higher than 7, they will have multiple numbers on them. So I will get into them in a later video. But for now, we just want to scan through them and look for these triples and see if there's any other ones we can find. So we'll start again. We're looking for three numbers. No, we don't have them here. Here we've got 15 in a triple. We'll sort that out later. 16, I won't worry about that. No, I won't worry about that. Here we've got 21, but we've also got in this tutorial here that how you can actually change triples into pairs, as we've said. Now, we have now got an 8 and a 9 in this row, and we know that 8 and 9 is the top pair, which adds to 17. So to take 17 away from 21, we now know that that has to be a 4. It cannot be any other number. And if you click on the 21, you can see it's showing you there 4, 8, and 9. And that opens up here because we've got a 4. This cannot be the 4. We can eliminate that 4. We're now left with 6 and 1 makes 7. And because this is a 1, this has to be a 3. Okay, and here we've got a triple of 8. I'll go into this one now, but I really did want to go into it the next video. 8 is the next number up from 7. Now, it will, when you click on this, it's actually giving you multiples. It can only be 1, 2, or 5, or 1, 3, and 4. So we'll show you how to work on the multiples in a later video. But another way of looking at it, what I like to do is that, remember, any time that you see three numbers that need to add up to 8, one of the numbers has to be a 1. All the time. It doesn't matter, it's in a column or in a row. One of the numbers will be a 1. Now, that is handy to know because if you're ever in a situation where you've got 3 empty blocks that you're looking for, the combinations of filling them up to add up to 8, but you've already got, let's say for an example, this number up here was a 1, and this number down here was a 1, then you know that because you can't have it in the same column, this square here would be the only place that the 1 could go. So that's just another little trick to keep in your mind to eliminate numbers when you need to get 3 in a row, and it's looking for the number 8. Let me just see if there's any other simple little tricks I can show you here. Here we go with this one here. We're looking here for 3 numbers that add up to 11. We've already established in this square it's either an 8 or a 9. Now, if this was a 9 to make 11, that would have to be 1 and 1, which means 2 numbers in the same row or column, which we can't have. So we can eliminate that 9. It can't possibly be a 9. 8 is the lowest number it can be in there. Because it's 8, then this one has to be the 9. So I can put that in. 8 added up to 11 means that we're 3 short. So we know that to make 3 can only be 1 and 2. So I can put in there 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. That is what I'm meaning by converting the triples into doubles. All you do is subtract the established number from the target number and then treat the next 2 squares as a pair, so in 1 and 2. We can see from here that because it's the 2, this one has to be the 1. Because this is a 1, then this has to be the 2. Because this is 2, then this has to be 9 in order to make 11. 9 is 4 to add up to 13. Now also, we're only missing one square here on this row, so we can actually add those up to just get this number here sorted, and it'll do the same thing for this column, and then we'll finish it there. So 4 and 1 is 5, and 2 is 7. 7 and 6 is 13, so this then has to be the 3. And we can double check it this way. 9 and 1 is 10, and 3 is 13. So we've basically got this bottom corner sorted out. And I think we've actually gone through there all the low pairs. We've gone through the high pairs. We've gone through the low triples. We've gone through the high triples. We've gone through converting triples into pairs with the established numbers. We've gone through matching pairs that you can eliminate them on the any column or on any row. Just one other thing I'll do that I've noticed here is a column here that we can quickly solve. We've already got established in this column 1, 2, and 3, which makes 6. We're looking for a target number of 11, so that has to be 5. Okay, now what I want to do is that we've put in a few numbers. Let's just make sure at this stage that we are on the right track. We'll click the check button and just wait for it to respond and tell us if we've made any mistakes or done anything wrong. That's now going through, and no, we haven't. So everything's looking good there. So I'll end this first tutorial here. Later on, we will carry on with this puzzle, and I'll go through then adding in the higher pair numbers, which the numbers that are higher than the looking for 4 and lower than trying to get 16. And in the triples, we're looking at higher numbers than 7 and lower numbers than 23, in which case we've got multiples. So I suggest that you have a go at these puzzles. Check out kakuroconquest.com, and thank you for watching, and I will catch you on the next ones. Bye for now. See ya.